Tonight, greetings, fellow travelers. As the week reaches its thrilling midpoint, we are broadcasting from the mountains of West Virginia. Embrace the spirit of adventure as you join us on this daring journey through the untamed wilderness of Let's Find Out with Diego. Bonus Overdrive Wednesday.
It's time to find out with Diego. Let's go. Ooh, yeah.
On this episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, this is a story about three friends with a passion for Christian metal in a rural hideaway known as the Thrash Cabin. That's where Bishop Spring was born. From those intense late-night jam sessions, a unique sound emerged, one that quickly filled the quiet rural area with its raw electrifying energy. All this plus more. Please welcome first-time guests and new friends. They are Bishop Spring. My friends, welcome to Bonus Overdrive Wednesday.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure to be here.
Oh, you know, pleasure's all on this side of the table. And before we were talking about getting you guys on the interview, we're talking about our love and passion for Christian metal. And I think we're going back to 1989 and 90 with the history of the band. And I was talking to Joshua, telling him that that's right about the time when I discovered Christian metal. And, you know, that's when huge bands like Sacred Warrior, Crucified, Deliverance, Tourniquet, Modification, Bride, of course, we love Bride. We're going to get into that later on. And then you have your underground bands as well. You had Thresher, Sardonyx, you had White Ray, you had Loud, and the granddaddy of them all, we all know, not an underground band, but Barren Cross, Striper, Bloodgood. And we can go on for days talking about the great bands that they were. And we were talking earlier about the new EP Insurgent that's been released, and it's ready for action. It's out there. But before we begin talking about Insurgent, would you mind introducing yourselves to our friends, the listeners? And I'll start with you, Joshua, on my top right.
Absolutely. My name's Josh. Play drums, strum some strings here and there, just all over. Probably, I would say I'm the self-proclaimed biggest fan of this band. Sorry, guys, I got to it first. I've loved everything we've done, in this band the entire time we've done it, and we've come up through all the stages of musical maturity, but every step along the way, it's just all the best memories, some of the best times of my life with these guys, and I've done a lot of things in music, Christian and secular, and I'd walk away from all of it to continue on doing music with this band. So that's where I'm at.
Nice.
Brad, you want to go?
Yeah, I am Brad. I am Mr. Bassman in the band, and vocals. I don't know if you consider me the lead vocalist, because we all do lead vocals in this band, other than Josh.
Yeah. That's right. I'm shy.
But he does do some. He is very shy, as you can tell,
yeah.
And he does background vocals on a lot of the stuff.
Right.
But and I tell you what, we are a band of brothers. We've known each other forever. I don't know how long. It's been decades. So.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just we're brothers. I mean, we're family. So, and we know so much about each other. I just love these guys, and Jess, I love you too.
Oh, thanks.
That's right.
You're the newest member of the band, right? So, yeah, I just love kicking it old school with my brothers and my sister. It's just wonderful. Loud and proud.
That's a beautiful family. To my bottom right, Dale and Jessica.
I am Dale. I am the groove master. I'm the master of power chords. I'm on rhythm guitar, acoustic guitar, and just like Brad's saying, I've done lead vocals to background vocals as well too. Just as we kind of progress through the musical stages over the years. This is my lovely wife, Jessica.
Hello.
I'm happy to have all of you on, and in talking about the history of the bands. I mean, we're talking decades, and that's back in the time. We're talking about 1989, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think a rather big year in the Christian metal scene, and then up to about the mid '90s, kind of things kind of faded a little bit, but undeniable, the best times to be alive if you're a Christian metal fan.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this thing started in a little place called Thrash Cabin. So let's talk about what Thrash Cabin is all about.
Sure. So I'll go back a little bit even before the Thrash Cabin. So my mother is to blame for all of our music and our existence as a band. We went to a concert in Decatur, Illinois, called Metal Fest, and just tons and tons of the top Christian metal bands at the time were there, including some that weren't the top metal bands at the time, but we won't talk about them. So we were jazzed up, just having a great time, crazy teenager action and energy. And we talked about it for, I don't know, probably a couple of days, maybe a few weeks afterwards, just nonstop. And finally my mom said, why don't you guys shut up and just make a band or something, similar to that. And so we did. And we got together for the first time at a church, a little church in Jacksonville, Illinois. And we quickly realized that we needed a little bit more freedom than what that church was going to provide us. And so my family has a farm just outside of Hideaway, Illinois. And on that farm, we had a, kind of a half dilapidated, empty home that, hadn't been lived in for years and years. And we took that little house over, just tucked up in the corner of the woods there in the corner of the farm. And we set up in there, and we stayed there for a number of years, and just decided on our sound and wrote songs, and had some of the best times of our lives doing this in there.
Absolutely.
And talking about when it finally came to say, hey, put up or shut up, start the band. So what were some of the influences behind your music at that time? What brought you to the show as far as, like, I could probably tell, I know we're talking about Bribe, but there's so many other bands. Let me go backwards. What was the first band you listened to that really got you?
I know for me, early, even for Metal Fest and all of that, my parents were, they were fairly progressive Christians with an open mind towards, the rock music of like the late 70s and early 80s, and the Christian scene then. And so in like 1983 or 84, I can't remember which year, they took me to a Petra concert at the Coliseum in St. Louis.
Yep.
And I remember we were up on the second tier balcony, right at the railing. And I was white knuckled on the railing for this show because I've never seen anything like this in my life. And I white knuckled that railing for the entire show and was just blown away by the fact that this was something that people could do. And so I was listening to, Petra for years. After that, got into, Stryper, Bloodgood, Jerusalem, Leviticus, all those early bands. I was buying those tapes wherever I could find them, even, copying my friends' tapes onto, blank tapes and listening to music like that. So basically anything I could get my hands on those, from those early years of Christian rock and metal, Stryper's a given for all of us, I think. But
Yes.
But yeah, I'll let you guys talk about it a little bit too. Dominate the situation.
Well, for me, my influence, of course, Resurrection Band was the first one I ever heard. I love Res Band to this day. Glenn Kaiser and the family there got me into Christian music, a little harder music. Of course, Stryper. I love me some Stryper. And gosh, who else? Vengeance Rising, Deliverance back in the day. Oh my goodness, I love Deliverance. Jimmy P. Brown, George Ochoa, those two guys.
Yeah.
Amazing guitarists, both of them. So, yeah, I'm trying Barren Cross for me. Oh my goodness. DeGarmo and Key, and I go back to DeGarmo and Key. I mean, those guys are amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, Diego, I say it's a lot of the same. When I first got introduced to Christian rock, I was into a lot of like Petra, DeGarmo and Key. Res Band was probably the first like really more edgier band that I got introduced to. And then right around those magic years at 84, 85, you got Striper coming out, Blood Good, Bearing Cross, and then just kept getting better and better to that time period in the late 80s, early 90s, like you mentioned with Sacred Warrior, a lot of these bands. And just so you kind of know, I watched a documentary a few months ago. It was on the making of the Joshua Tree album by U2. And in that interview, in that documentary, Bono, they were interviewing, he made the comment, we were a band before we knew how to play our instruments. And no joke, like that was really us. So when Josh is talking about the first time we played at that church in Jacksonville, man, I think I knew how to finger a G chord and just put a bunch of distortion on that. We played our hearts out. And I think it's one of the reasons why we're so connected, and it's like we're three brothers, because we've been together for so long, but we matured in our musical abilities at the same time. Like we were kind of doing this and learning the whole thing together. And I think it's what probably knits us together in a way that you could take like 3 or 4 dudes that, hey, I've been playing guitar for like, 15 years, 10 or 12 years. And this person's been playing drums for 10 or 12 years and, a vocalist or whatever, you throw them all together. But for us, man, we learned our chops together. Like we figured it out together, and it's been an incredible ride, man. God's been so kind to us.
Absolutely.
And then so now, can I call you Jess or Jessica? What do you?
Whichever you prefer. Jess
All
is
right,
fine.
Oh, perfect. And so with you, because we know all of us collectively love Striper.
Absolutely.
But I know there's some more out there you probably discover. So how did you discover your love of Christian metal?
So quite frankly, it was through these guys. It started with Dale, but I always had a very eclectic taste anyway. I love a little bit of everything. I just love music in general. And so when he asked me if I liked metal music, I was like, well, sure, I like a little bit of everything. And then he just started sending me stuff. And so that was how I really started to know all of these bands that they grew up with. Because I just didn't have anybody around me before that was into Christian metal.
And by the way, Diego, my wife is very humble. She didn't mention it, but on our newer projects now, she plays violin, and she also does lead vocals. She's done background vocals on our first Ascension EP as well. So
Also bringing a whole different dimension to the group, and because modern times call for some modern action. And I was just actually listening to Cry of Sodom about 30 minutes before I got on with y'all, and we're going to get into that here in a second. And a memory flashed in my mind when you're talking about the early days playing in churches. So I used to go to a lot of these churches. They used to have a Christian metal bands play every once in a while, but there were rules. There's a lot of things you couldn't do. You definitely couldn't. Back then, we called it moshing or slam dancing. You couldn't do that. And then I think some of these bands, they got so loud and started getting such a quick following. They really could. Like you said, they outgrew the churches. They had to go play somewhere else. And I used to go to this Pentecostal church in Middletown, Ohio. Probably one of the wildest churches I ever seen. And then I'm thinking, and we all know what goes on in these Pentecostal churches.
Right.
Everybody's doing their thing. It's like Benny Hinn comes to town. Everybody's falling. And well, I see all this going on, but we can't mosh. I mean, this is kind of similar to what y'all are doing. But anyway, yeah, we did it in a loving way. And I don't know why I got sidetracked there for a second, but it's one of the, if you don't understand, it's a very unique culture, unlike anywhere else, because you can listen to this kind of music some would consider aggressive, I consider it very inspirational, not only from a lyrical content, of course, but musically as well, because everything's married to each other perfectly. Um, and then you mentioned something about Bloodgood, and this is a complete side conversation. Have you seen that Trenches of Rock yet? That documentary?
So
Yeah.
good.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
Love it.
It is the best, and also one of the saddest things I've ever seen, because it shows not only is it difficult enough at that time being a Christian rock or metal band, but it was even harder. I didn't know it was so hard. It's for Bloodgood, and I also rediscovered my love for David Zafiro, because I mean, underrated to say the least.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And with all those influences and the brotherhood you got going on here, let's talk about that first set of songs you wrote. And when were they released? When did this happen?
Go for it, Dale.
The our first EP that we just released last November is really it's called Ascension. That's the name of the album. Ascension was our original band name when we first started out, and it represents a lot of the I think influences that we were big into at the time. So if you listen to some of those tracks, a lot of punk. So we were big into the Crucified, but even before that, I know for me, Altar Boys was a big influence, kind of pre-metal days. I'm a big Undercover guy too. I love Jim Nicholson and his guitar sound on a lot of the early Undercover stuff. So you'll hear a lot of elements of that. But then also we got a track on there called Welcome to America, which really starts to get into that more kind of thrash. To me, a little like Suicidal Tendencies, a little bit of that influence on there, Crucified. And that's where we were at. It's really aggressive because that's all we knew how to do was play loud and fast, right? Like, and that's what we did. We played loud and fast, very aggressive. And I believe as you listen to our music as it progresses, you can hear that maturation, so to speak, of lyrical content, and also just the way the music is put together to whereas now I think with Insurgent especially, and then going forward into some of our newer stuff, if you were to ask us or ask me anyway, how to define our sound, I'd say it's almost a mashup of Mortification and Bride, because it's got a lot of that. It's very heavy groove based, but it's very hard, very aggressive. But we love the blues, man. So when you listen to our stuff, there's a lot of heavy blues influence in there. So and a lot of it. I do think there's a lot that kind of sounds like Bride. Not that we're trying to rip them off, but hey, we love the blues too, man. So you'll hear. I feel like you'll hear a lot of influence in our songs. But one thing about us, Diego, is when it comes to our lyrical content, we're unapologetic, man. We are a Christian band, and no matter what we're talking about in our songs, we've had songs about abortion, man. Just like Barren Cross and Seventh Angel, we talk about child abuse, just like Res Band, Sacred Warrior, some of these other. They influence some of our songwriting as well as some of our themes. But you're going to get straight Bible from us, man. You're going to get straight a message that Jesus Christ is King. He is Lord. Repent and believe in Him. And that's what our music is all about. It kind of changes flavors a little bit now and then, but it's always going to be aggressive. I feel like you're talking about moshing, man. I feel like we write music. We almost unconsciously we think about the kids in the pit, man. We write songs. We write songs for the pit. Musical influences. I think Cornerstone Music Festival probably influenced us a lot because we went to those shows. We went to see Believer. We went to see Deliverance. We went to see Mortification in those tents, and it's 102 degrees in the shade in the beginning of July, and there's that little circle of dust going up there, and we learned, man, it's like that groove, that real just heavy, aggressive message and aggressive music, and And we still love it, man. Like we still love it, and it's like in our blood. We can't help it. Like you listen to Bishop Spring, you're gonna get groove, and it's gonna be low end and lots of crunch.
Well, I already love it. And you mentioned Deliverance and Believer. I was talking earlier, this whole week has been Sacred Warrior, but every once in a while I sneak into a lot of Deliverance, and you hear that California sound come out of there, especially, and I think once they got into What a Joke, you start hearing some of that like SOD-ish kind of stuff in there. A lot of groove, a lot of great pit music, and then you mentioned Crucify, another one, and you can't see it, but on my back, the logo for Crucify where it's got the thorns. Yeah. It's right behind my back, it's my shoulder. It's the first tattoo I got.
Nice.
And it's one of my favorite things I have on me. And one of the things about these bands is they leave a lifetime impression on you.
Yes,
and
they
it's
do.
and it's I don't know how to you can relate. I just cannot explain it.
Yeah.
And being that the original, why the change? I'm going back. It was Ascension first, but then we're looking into Bishop Spring. Why the change of name?
I think so. The name Bishop Spring was really a move to kind of consolidate everything we did when our band name was Ascension. We've got that group of songs, and then at some point we were like, yeah, Ascension's not cool anymore. Let's be Insurgent. So while we were Insurgent, we wrote essentially, the Insurgent album songs, and there were a few more in there that were, we can't really remember all the parts too, so we kind of let them sit by the side. But Bishop Spring, number one, Bishop Spring is the name of our family's farm where this band was basically born, Bishop Spring Farm. And, and there's a legitimate spring that comes out of the river bluff right there. You can walk up to it to this day. And so we just kind of took that name on as, something that kind of could, umbrella over these other two projects and still, encompass everything that we're doing today that's new. The Insurgent stuff has a certain sound to it, like Dale was saying, kind of punk, a little bit of thrash influence to it. The Insurgent stuff is, a little bit more technical, although none of us probably would, qualify ourselves as shredders. In a lot of ways, we just feel like we're dudes that play music that we love. But, the Insurgent material is, more Deliverance, the Vengeance Rising. You can tell our influences had changed, slightly. We were definitely more in the depths of that early Christian metal influence when it comes to our Insurgent songs. And then with Bishop Spring, it's just, we've got those two basic demo EPs. We needed to give those songs, the life that they deserved after, just existing in our heads for, the last 35 years. And now, we're off to the races with our our next album coming up, which is called The Coming Storm. We've got all those songs written. We've got several of them are in our producer's hand right now, getting the final touches to them. So, Ascension and Insurgent, those babies were born. We're proud of them. We love both of those albums to death. Those two albums are our DNA, our foundation, and the rest of Bishop Springs is just what's coming next.
And during those early days, and I don't know about you, if you ever subscribed to Heaven's Metal or White Throne, I subscribe to all the fanzines out there.
Yeah.
Did you send out your demos to see if you get a good review from Doug Van Pelt or?
Dale and I were talking about this not too long ago. He sparked my memory. I do believe we sent a demo to Doug Van Pelt. Doug, it might still be on your shelf somewhere. Don't listen to it. If you find it, don't listen to it. That demo is it is a rare find if anybody comes across it. I think we probably only made about 100 copies of that thing. Mm-hmm. We sent it out to some key people, but Diego, if you were to hear that thing today, you'd be like, I get why you didn't hear back from anybody. I mean, honestly, it could have been recorded on like a really off night at CBGB's in New York City, and like had the band been like, I mean, we sounded like we were on, piles of cocaine. I mean, the music was so fast, the energy was so raw, and the recording was such low quality. It just didn't go anywhere, and that's fine. It's part of our story, and we definitely needed to redo all of those songs, which is why those first 2 EPs now exist in the form that they do.
Excellent. But, don't sell it short. I remember for $3 whole, which included shipping, I bought the first Living Sacrifice demo. It was 3 songs. And all they did was photocopy it on cardboard blue, and the guy hand drew whatever it was, calligraphy. It was great with some sort of calligraphy. It looked very death metal calligraphy. I don't know. He was the inventor of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, look what happens. The first album came out on I think REX, self-titled, just blew my mind. Those guys were excellent. You guys are the same way. You guys are excellent. And then, which brings me to this. Now, you say you've recorded the new material and you're getting it now. For when is it going to be released, you think? Once everything's done?
Dale?
We're looking at probably the tail end of this year, maybe beginning of 26 for a release date. But we should have it. Really, everything should be done and in the can by probably beginning of August at the latest, I'm guessing. And that's just to Josh's point. The songs have all been written. It's in our producer's hands right now, but there may be some touch up here or there on some tracks or something. So it's assuming there may be some minor edits that have to be done here or there, but just and leaving kind of a broad window for that. It should be done and in the can but sometime this summer, but we're gonna kind of hold on to it for a bit before we release it out there to the world, and hopefully like to get a bigger push on some of our material that's already out. But I promise you, man, if you're liking our stuff right now, I know everybody says this, I get it, but truly, man, you're gonna be blown away, because it's like we've taken it to the next level. And I'm super excited. We've got so much material, man. We've been a band like forever and a day, and we're not even done writing, man. We could be writing songs like every week. We've got so much material ready to go. As long as the Lord gives us breath and beats of our hearts and the ability to play our instruments, our plan is to just continue playing music, and hopefully people out there enjoy it because we love it.
Amen.
Absolutely.
And I know they will. A little different dynamic on this album. I think there's some in addition for other instruments as well, right? I think Josh, you mentioned that earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah,
so,
we've got Jessica. We've got her on violin and doing a whole lot of carrying the load of the vocals,
which is a joy.
Yeah. So it's a unique dynamic because a lot of metal bands don't necessarily have a female vocalist, so I think that gives us an edge. Throwing that violin in there, it kind of shades of like older Believer, Paramecium. I'm a big Paramecium guy too. I love that sound. So you'll hear, we've got some songs a little bit more low end on there as well. But I play a little 12-string acoustic guitar in there, so a lot more just different, just playing around with some different sounds and stuff that's a little different than what you hear on Ascension and on Insurgent, just because it's part of that musical progression, man. We're maturing and just adding more flavors to the mix.
Absolutely.
And adding the different dimensions to it, Jessica, was this always your plan to?
So I've always wanted to be a singer. I've been singing my whole life, even as early as I can remember, 5 years old, singing on stage at church, doing solos and things like that. 10, 12 years old, doing some music competitions at church camp in front of, 4,000 people. So it's just always something that I've loved. I've been playing the violin since first grade. So also something I love. Got to do a tour in Europe with an orchestra. So both of them are just, the vocals and the violin have always been important to me. So when they gave me an opportunity to be a part of the band and the family, I was more than happy to join.
The reality is, Diego, there was a track that I had sung I sung the song, and I was like, man, it's okay. What if we should give Jess a shot and have her do it? And as soon as Josh heard her sing, he said, she's in the band. So, and that was, it was a good choice. And she adds, and I'm just saying that because she's my wife, but truly she's been a blessing. she adds so much to it. She is by far the best singer out of all of us.
Yes.
And just adding that violin, man, there's things that she does on some of these tracks with the violin that I feel like it makes us unique, man. It makes us stand out because how many Christian metal bands out there have a violinist?
I can't recall. I think the last time, and people are probably going to email me and say, "Oh, you don't know much about Christian metal." So I'm just going to say, on Sanity Obscure.
Yes, believer, absolutely.
Yes, that's the first time I actually heard of a proper violin, and then I believe, I don't know, was it Kirk Bachman's sister who sang that, or was it?
There was a connection there somehow like that. I don't know.
Yeah, the soprano singer. I'm not sure who she was, but
yeah, and I'm sure somebody will tell me. But also, on the topic of female vocalists and Seventh Angel, because I saw the post talk about Seventh Angel. After Seventh Angel, I believe that one of the members, they put out a demo, and I think they also had a female vocalist, but I think it fell a little flat. It's not because it didn't sound good, but the times we were not, I would say nobody was ready for that. Even though there were already female fronted bands, because you had Doro, and of course when she was in Warlock, and then you had Joe and Jet with the hard rock, you had Lita Ford, but I think in the Christian metal circles, I think we a little bit behind the curve on that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's been a big, I think we've had a lot of help, with some of the like the Dutch bands coming out with female fronted metal vocalists, the Norwegians, a lot of that symphonic, female led metal, I think has really helped clear the way for some of that. And that kind of music is a guilty pleasure of mine. I do listen to a lot of that, Norwegian symphonic stuff too. So that's always in the back of my head with what we're doing. I probably try to get us to scooch into that lane a little bit on some of the songs that she's singing in.
Sure, like I said, it brings a whole different dynamic to the sound. And now I'm gonna autocorrect myself. I forgot about Ransom.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
And Ransom, pretty good sound. But now, off topic. So I gotta, Brad, your shirt. I know I'm going all over the road. Corn metal. You gotta help me out, man. I love it.
Corn Metal Records. That's our record label, right, Josh?
Yes, it is.
Yep. That's our record right there. Got to represent.
Yeah, we had to do something, with all our publishing and all of that, and with distribution. And rather than, try to go knock on, everybody's door. I'm a big fan of DIY, when it comes to the music industry, especially these days. It's just the easiest, fastest way to get stuff out there. And so we just put together, a record label for publishing and distribution purposes, and pretty much everything with Bishop Spring, being that, the band was born on a farm in central Illinois amongst, cornfields and more miles of cornfields. It's kind of an inside joke. We hashtag everything corn metal, our record label, Corn Metal Records. It's just something fun, little twist that we put on everything that we do.
No, I like it. I love this shirt. You gotta let me know. Is there more shirts available? I want to
Yeah,
get one of these shirts.
absolutely. Yep.
So we'll talk offline about that.
Absolutely, we will.
No, I love it. I love the logo and everything. And now let's get to the obvious here. I'm a big Bride fan. I love Dale Thompson. I think he's one of the best metal vocalists that I've ever listened to. I think he's right up there, and I don't want to. No, I'm going to do it. I think he's right up there with like Dio. In a different spectrum.
Yes.
But he's kind of like the Dio of Christian metal.
Mhm.
Yes.
And somehow, and I'm loving everything about it, you guys managed to get a working relationship with Dale Thompson. So how did this come about?
So I think it was on Facebook. Been friends with him on Facebook for quite a while, but he had a post on there, where he's kind of farming himself out, for side projects. And I talked about it, with everybody else in the band, and hands down, it was like a no-brainer. Of course, if we can get him to agree to, to sing, with us on a song, there's no question, and we're right there with you on our
Yes.
Our opinion of his vocal. Like, his vocal is associated with so many memories, of us coming up in the Christian metal scene. We saw Bride in concert, dozens of times, and just seeing the door there for the opportunity to work with Dale on this song, Cry of Sodom. We sent him an email and he replied, and it was pedal to the metal after that. And we're so blessed to have his talent on that album and on that song. We'll be forever thankful, and that
Absolutely.
he took the time to add his vocals to it. It was beautiful.
No, it is quite a blessing. I mean, the man's done and seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so happy that they're doing their thing again. I think I just saw, not a troll because it was already online. I follow him. I think he's in Mexico right now.
Yeah.
Doing something. And God bless them. They're great. And then, so I'll put it, and I don't want to put in jeopardy your relationship with Dale or the band. So around the room, whoever wants to go first, which is your favorite Bride album?
Well, for me, Snakes in the Playground, no question. I love that album dearly. I play it all the time. My sons despise it. What is that? I said that you're listening to one of the greatest Christian metal bands of all time, right there, guys.
They're too young to understand.
They don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
If Brad's going to take Snakes in the Playground, because that's probably an obvious one because it's really big. But Diego, I love, you got it hanging up on your wall. I'm going to go ahead and say Silence is Madness.
Mm-hmm.
Until the End We Rock, man, that's still a jammer. I love to put that on, listen to that a lot too. So lots of really, really strong songs on that one as well too. So you can't go wrong with that album.
Oh no. Yeah. Without, the unoriginality of me having to agree with Dale. It's hands down Silence is Madness. That album was, honestly, one of the very first exposures I had to, the harder side of Christian rock at the time. And I could not believe, that, because honestly, when you're a kid and you hear Dale Thompson and you're like, okay, which headphone is the demon going to come flying at me out? Because it's just, you're not expecting that to be, I grew up in a church where it was, choirs singing, maybe a little bit more progressive than that at times, but it blew my socks off, and I was hooked on, I listened to Silence is Madness to this day like it's the very first day I ever heard the album.
Yeah.
All right, not to put you on the spot, Jessica.
Well, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I don't actually know the names of the albums. But if I hear them, I know who they are, and I enjoy all of their music. They're extremely talented, and it's just such a blessing to hear just different genres It doesn't matter how hard they are or not. They want to praise Christ. And so, anything that's willing to do that is great.
And you hit the nail on the head on that one. And the thing about that comment, I mean, with Bride in general, every album was a little bit different than the other one as it progressed. And I'm going to take my chance in telling you my favorite. I'm going to say a toss-up. Because I first introduction to was Silence is Madness. But I also love Snakes in the Playground. Because each album has one of the... just blows my mind. Well, with Silence, with Under the Influence, with that riff when it starts, it's just nasty.
Yeah.
But then you have Snakes in the Playground with Would You Die For Me? Oh, I mean, I think I've damaged a couple of speakers in different kind of cars like that before.
Right.
And everything's really great about both those albums. I love them all. I love the band. I love everything. I love you guys. And for the listeners of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday that want to learn more about Bishop Spring, that want to know where you get the EPs and find out more news about your upcoming albums being released sometime later this year, where can they go find out?
Everything social media, just all you do is put Bishop's Spring, Bishop, and then don't put the apostrophe, but Bishop and then Spring. It'll take you right to it. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X. There's a link right now on our Facebook page. It will actually take you to a link that has everything, including our merch page. A lot of the stuff on our social media kind of crosses over. You'll find the merch link on our Facebook. There's a couple of links in there where you can actually buy physical copies of the first two EPs, both on CD and vinyl. So those are available out there to the rare collector of the physical media. But yeah, if you just type Bishop Spring, Bishop Spring in whatever social media and whatever streaming platform, you'll be able to find everything that we do just like that.
Yeah.
Excellent, my friends, and I really appreciate the conversation. And we could have a very lengthy conversation about our favorite bands and their albums, but I really appreciate you all being on the show, and I'm looking forward to the new album coming out this year. And I'm going to play right now on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, Cry of Sodom by Bishop Spring.
content on this broadcast is a property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. The information shared on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.